me, Nick Hines. All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media outside of Gillette Stadium. Actually on the ramps outside of Gillette Stadium because we apologize for the delay. We were just set up closer to the field, but it just started downpouring out here. That's why we're a little late. But
It's a freaking monsoon.
Yeah, it's insane. But we're here for a live Pats Daily, breaking down day 2 of Patriots training camp. A quick reminder, we are powered by Game Time. So head over to Game Time after the show. Don't leave the show. And use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Taylor, day 2. Training camp. We'll get into all of it. We have a bunch of notes. We'll go through the whole thing. But main takeaways from the jump, what did you make of day 2 out here today?
The defense is really good.
Really good.
And the offense is still very much in the early stages.
Really not that good.
I will say, it's not that the offense has necessarily been bad. Yeah. I think we're just seeing that there is a legitimate talent deficit. Like, obviously, Drake May and Jacoby Brissett have been out here, honestly, making smart decisions from what it looks like as an outsider. Obviously, we don't know what the progressions are. We don't know if they're, like, going through too quickly or what have you. Really more Drake May in terms of, like, you're not really sure what you're seeing. But they're avoiding turnover-worthy throws, which is the big thing.
Right.
Jacoby Brissett had one yesterday, but today he was pretty clean. It's just a lot of short throws. Now, there's a lot of quick game and screens involved in this Alex Van Pelt offense, and that's just something you're going to have to deal with.
Right.
But when they do have the pure dropbacks, where you can really see that these guys are going through to see who's open, it's a lot of checkdowns and outlet receivers. And then when they try to go downfield, there's not a whole lot of reward. We had Marcus Jones and Jabril Peppers with breakups today on very tightly contested passes. And on top of that, Drake May only went downfield, I think, once on what was a beautiful completion to Jalen Polk on what looked like an RPO, then a glance route where you get right behind the defense. Drake May put it over and underneath his own defender. But yeah, it's just the defense isn't giving up a whole lot of yardage. And obviously with no tackling, you don't even know if the Patriots offense would be getting more after the catch, really, because it's pretty much, all right, I'll tap you, and then the play is dead. So good news is the defense is so far as good as we thought it would be, considering there's also been a lot of rotation in that group. And the offense is, doing what it has to do to get by, which is as much as you could expect, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Probably the biggest storyline of the day does come out of the quarterback room, but not involving Drake May, the rookie 3rd-round pick. It actually has to do with the rookie 6th-round pick, Joe Milton, coming in as the 3rd quarterback today, ahead of Bailey Zappi for the first time. So a lot of moving parts in that room, obviously, but Bailey Zappi, since the start of the OTA program, goes from the 2nd-string quarterback behind Jacoby Brissett all the way down to number 4 after things are all said and done today. So is Zappi's time done on the Patriots? I know that they talked about during the OTA program cutting the roster in the quarterback room down from 4 to 3. Obviously, Zappi has been moved over twice now. My thought process, kind of, and we've talked about it here before, but just to reiterate, if Drake May wasn't ready, maybe they keep Zappi around to kind of be a backup game day quarterback in case Brissett gets hurt, what have you. But Drake May is obviously the 2nd guy here. Joe Milton, developmental player, strong arm, all that stuff. We know all that. But it seems like he's now, sort of cementing himself as that 3rd guy, at least from today. What did you see from Milton? And like I asked before, is Zappi's time done with the Patriots?
I don't want to make any declarative statements
on
day 2. I
will
will say that. I'm not going as far as to say Bailey Zappi's done. I do think they keep preaching Gerard Mayo and the coaching staff, competition. So sometimes I think if there are spots up for grabs, he mentioned, keep an eye on Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton because of that competition. So this could literally just be Joe Milton getting maybe more of an opportunity and them wanting to see what he could do with it, because Bailey Zappi wasn't particularly bad. And even Joe Milton, it's more of what we've seen. There are some positive plays, but the inaccuracy or inconsistent accuracy and the fact that sometimes he'll just throw a 90-mile-per-hour fastball to someone who's less than 10 yards downfield.
It's more like all the time, not sometimes. He has one speed and it's fast.
There was a slant to Jalen Reagor where it went through his hands, but also, I think he might have scorched some of his gloves off because that was a heater. So I don't want to necessarily say that either one of them won or lost the job today. Bailey Zappi, they're still showing, I don't know if it's a sign of respect or what, but he's still the 2nd quarterback during warm-ups in the early portions of practice. But then once things get competitive, that's where we saw there was a differentiation between reps. It also felt like Joe Milton was getting more opportunities than Bailey Zappi. So, again, I think it's more of they're just trying to see how these position groups stack up and if guys can take advantage of getting opportunities higher on the depth chart. But, I feel like tomorrow we could see Bailey Zappi as a 3rd quarterback again. Where Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, obviously the top 2 guys. And then behind them, it really is a battle.
I'm with you. We talked about it, earlier in the week, too, when we did our training camp questions. The competition to watch in the quarterback room is that 3rd spot. I think we understand that it's Brissett's job to start and Drake May is going to be the backup. Now, can May overlap him? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's still early. It's just day 2. But that's sort of what's going down in the quarterback room. Some housekeeping stuff. Patriots attendance today. Everybody besides Devon Godshot and then Joey Sly were absent at the start. Joey Sly showed up and participated. Do I have that right?
Yeah, he was working on field goals.
Okay.
I think his helmet was off to the side, so yeah, I don't know why he was absent, but it seemed like there was.
Yeah, he wasn't here early, but he ends up showing up and participating. But the big one is Devon Godshot, who, as you guys know at home who follow the Patriots, he has been in what they're calling a contract dispute with the team. He wants to be paid. He wants an extension, and he's not getting what Godshot thinks he deserves. It was him and it was Judon heading into yesterday, but the both of them showed up and participated today. Judon's back. Devon Godshot not here. He did not show up for warm-up. He ended up coming out here in a jersey but without a helmet, but didn't participate in anything. So I don't know if it's injury. We don't know if it's injury related. We're not going to speculate on anything. But what do you make in general of Godshot not being here? Do you think it's injury? Do you think it's a holdout? Do you think it's a little bit of both? And what else did you see from the rest of the defensive tackle room? Because I know that Christian Barmore left practice early as well.
Yeah, so the fact that Joey Sly left and then came back is definitely a weird sign because Godshot came back and didn't do anything.
Right.
But at the same time, my instinct would be that something may be up health-wise. Again, not speculating. This is just deductive reasoning on my part.
Yeah.
Because when Devon Godshot was holding out during minicamp, he was still here. He was on the field with everybody else from early on in practice and stayed. He just wasn't participating. And then he was a full participant yesterday. So it would be really weird to go from holding in to participating to then holding in but not even showing up early. That just seems off. And then there's guys like Kendrick Bourne and Cole Strange who were still on the PUP list. They showed up and they were on the sidelines. Right. So it felt more like that's really the situation where injured players won't be around early. I don't know if they're working on things behind the scenes like rehab or what have you. And then maybe that finishes and they go on the sidelines. That's kind of what we've seen.
Right.
So I don't know what's up with Godshot. It just would be very odd for him to be like, nope, I'm not participating anymore. I'm going back to my hold-in. Like it would just be very awkward, and I wouldn't really get the mentality there. But it's still early. We'll see how it develops.
Taking it from what it just was today, it looks like a holdout thing because again we know the contract, we don't know an injury, and we know he wasn't here. But I'm with you. The chain of events that led up to it, the not coming here, then coming here, participating in full yesterday. Like, does he go in yesterday and the agent calls him? It's like, yeah, we're not close, so don't participate today. It's odd. Yeah.
It's the business side.
Yeah,
and we are not privy to, at least these two guys are not privy to it, so it's all speculation in this corner.
Yeah, but he wasn't there. He didn't participate. Judon still did. He was here. Another notable one, you talked about the PUP list and the NFI list. Antonio Gibson started practice. He was here. It looked like he may be cleared to come off the NFI list. He came out in uniform without a helmet and warmed up. But then he quickly scarred off and wasn't here. So it looks like he's still trying to work back from his off-season injury, but we'll keep an eye on that and let you all know what's going on with Antonio Gibson and the rest of the running back room. All right, let's go to some more big-ticket items from the rest of the day, Taylor. We'll start with Vidarian Lowe playing right tackle. So yesterday it was Calvin Anderson on the right side, opposite Chuks Okorafor at the left tackle spot. Caden Wallace mixed in a little bit, but it really looks like a rotation of guys at the right tackle spot. And today it was given to Vidarian Lowe, who the Patriots traded for last offseason. You've mentioned it before. Looks more like a left tackle, but they haven't playing right tackle today. So what'd you see from Vidarian Lowe today? What'd you make of the rotation, and how do you think it shakes out moving forward?
Well, I'll start this whole thing by noting that Chuks Okorafor spoke to the media after practice and actually said that likely outside of Mike Onwenu and David Andrews, which was odd that he mentioned Onwenu and not City So, but he said that there's going to be a different offensive line combination every day. That's what the coaches told him. And again, noting that Onwenu and Andrews were guys who probably wouldn't be moving around. So that was interesting. Onwenu kind of mentioned he could play any spot. He could still move to right tackle potentially. But that right tackle spot's been the one where you're seeing somebody new every day beside Mike Onwenu. Now, Vidarian Lowe, as you mentioned, if you look at even his pressure rate last season from the left side to the right side, the difference is staggering. He clearly is more comfortable on the left. I don't love him on the right side, but I think it just tells you this is truly an open competition. Caden Wallace has consistently been the second right tackle and usually next to Layden Robinson, but we saw, obviously, started with Mike Onwenu, then we got to Caden Wallace. Yesterday it's Calvin Anderson. Now it's Vidarian Lowe. I really think, especially with no pads on, it's not like these guys are proving themselves in just one day. Maybe some, technical things that they're talking about behind the scenes, and coaches are looking for those things specifically. But, I mean, it's somebody different each of these days. We'll see tomorrow. It could be somebody entirely new.
Right.
So I do think that it kind of relates back to the quarterbacks where you don't know for sure what the rotation's about, but it seems like they're trying to have an open competition and see who the best guy is for that certain spot. So I don't think we're going to see Vidarian Law on the right side much more.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's Caden Wallace. I'd like to see him actually solidify that spot. But at the same time, a guy like Calvin Anderson, who has experience on both sides, mentioned the value of cross-training and how he thinks it can be difficult. Isn't really for him because, again, he has experience, but it's beneficial long-term. So, yeah, I like Calvin Anderson and Caden Wallace, that battle, but hopefully Wallace can kind of assert himself once we get to the point where there's pads and really more competitive play.
Yeah, it feels like a true competition at the right tackle spot, obviously. Again, we mentioned it, but we have Calvin Anderson, Vidarian Lowe, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Caden Wallace takes the majority of the reps tomorrow, just kind of continuing to rotate through and see what happens. It feels like they're pretty set with Okorafor telling us after practice that they're going to have a new one every day, and he's been the left tackle both days. I feel like they're going to cement him in there. They've talked about it. Elliot Wolf's talked about it. Gerard Mayo said that Okorafor is going to be their left tackle. I think it's going to be him, City So, David Andrews, and Mike Onwenu. The question mark really, turns to right tackle. So we'll see what happens there. We'll keep an eye on it every single day out here in training camp. Let's see what else we can talk about today. I know what we're going to talk about. The wide receiver position, because Tyquan Thornton, he's stealing my heart again. I'm sorry. It's training camp Tyquan. I'm not actually buying it yet, but he's doing the thing we've seen the last 3 years. He comes out here with his speed and actually shows some sure hands. I think he caught like 5 or 6 balls today. He had one really solid catch. The rest was just, routine, if you will, but it's stuff that we haven't seen in the regular season yet. Like, he hasn't, built up that consistency. He hasn't been a guy to routinely get open, and he hasn't been a guy to routinely make the catch. He's been up and down throughout the entirety of his career. But today, just like he did the last 3 years, the one thing that is consistent is early training camp performances from Tyquan Thornton. So we'll see what happens once they get the pads on. We know he's injury prone. We know, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and we know he hasn't been able to perform, up to snuff with the pads on. But Thornton had a good day. Jalen Polk also had a pretty good day. He continues to, work in with that number 1 group. And then Demario Douglas is a guy who, we all expect to be the Patriots starting the Patriots' best starting wide receiver when it's all said and done when the season starts. But he hasn't performed, or he hasn't participated in team drills the last 2 days, which we found out after practice is a hand injury. That's according to Phil Perry. And we also noted that Demario Douglas was wearing a brace on his right thumb. So that's the quick headline-y stuff from the wide receiver room. But what did you see on the field today from all of those guys, and how do you see it checking out moving forward?
Yeah, so we like to critique Tyquan Thornton pretty closely.
Yes.
So I do want to be fair when he does something right.
Well, you have to. He was, the 55th overall pick 2 years ago? He was supposed to commit.
Totally fair,
yes.
and it's fair. But the fact that I think expectations for him are very, very low. Like, he made the catches that were thrown his way. The one play that didn't look great was a miscommunication that he had with Drake May, where it seemed like Drake thought he was going to keep going downfield, and Tyquan Thornton came back. You don't know who was wrong, who was right, but that was really the only gaffe. His receptions, I wasn't really impressed by. I think they were pretty routine. The best one was probably a curl that he caught against Christian Gonzalez. But outside of that, I mean, he made the plays that were there to be made. We're going to need to see if he can have not just one good day, but multiple good days together. That's the key for all of these Patriots receivers. We haven't really seen anybody outside of Jalen Polk in the spring really have back-to-back strong performances. Have yet to see that. Even Jalen Reagor, he was in the mix, but he didn't do anything that really stood out for me. None of the Patriots receivers really did outside of Jalen Polk, but that was really more of a great pass by Drake May on that glance route that I mentioned earlier. So, I thought it was a fine day from the Patriots receivers. But again, the plays that do get you out of your seat, they haven't really been available. So I'm waiting to see if somebody also like a Jalen Polk, maybe Javon Baker, who was also quiet today, if they can maybe just show that they can, in those contested situations, climb the ladder and make some difficult plays. I'd like to see that. But, yeah, I mean, really overall in the Patriots receiving core with no Demario Douglas, it's kind of just been, business as usual, pretty casual, short throws, nothing to really write home about.
So we promote these live Patriots Daily podcasts as sort of a laid-back, relaxed, guests in and out type of thing coming in. So shall we try and have our first guest on the pod?
I would love that.
Brian Hines, get over here. He's walking through. We're getting our first.
I don't think he knew that we were going to do this.
I didn't know he was going to do that, but he tried to mess us up, so we're going to have him on the pod.
Tried to mess you up.
No, he tried to distract us. He had me smiling. He had super producer Ahmed smiling. So, Brian, we're talking about the wide receivers. Quick hit thoughts. What was your reaction to Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Polk, and Demario Douglas today at camp?
Well, Tyquan was the most active guy, but I'm not doing it.
You're not back in yet?
Back in. Let's put the pads on, and let's see if he can even hold up on that. Pop Douglas still not participating, hand injury. He had a thumb wrapped up, so hopefully that's not Joe Milton just breaking everyone's thumbs, because Javon Baker also had a fractured thumb. But
that's a good point. What if this dude's just out here breaking thumbs?
Breaking everyone's thumbs. But I think the biggest positive from the wide receivers so far through 2 days is just they're trusting Jalen Polk, like, to go right in there with Jacoby Brissett, with Drake May. He's very active. He's involved. He had the best. He caught the best throw of the day from Drake May today. So just his involvement, that they're trusting him right out of the gate so far, I think that's a welcome sight, because I think we both, and you probably too, expect him to play a lot. And he's someone where, I said this yesterday on our show, like, I thought he would be better when the pads come on. Like, he seems more of like this gamer, like Kendrick Bourne. You put the pads on, he's physical, he can block with the pads on. So the fact that he's this involved and playing this much, even before the pads come on, I think that's a pretty exciting start for him.
Brian, also, real quick, Brian, you mentioned the physicality. One thing I would like to see from Jalen Polk's game, he's gotten some downfield opportunities, like on go route, slot fades, and things like that, but hasn't really capitalized. They've been broken up by, I think it was Jonathan Jones yesterday and Marcus Jones today. Once the pads come on and he can maybe start using his physicality a little more, like creating contact, all that kind of stuff that you see from, more physical receivers, I'd like to see if that can help him finish those kinds of plays, because Polk and Baker were two of the best downfield threats in college football last season, and we haven't really seen that yet in training camp. Still very early, but hopefully once the intensity ramps up, we'll see more production in that area from Jalen Polk.
Brian Hines is also our special teams guru, so today was actually the first time in training camp, day 2, they waited for it to pull out the special teams drills that went with kickoff and kick return. Did you glean anything from it? Was it more just cookie cutter stuff, or were we able to catch anything? Because we do have the new kickoff and kick return rule this year in NFL.
They still didn't do any kickoffs. We're 2 days in, and we haven't had a team-wide special teams period. Yeah. So, I mean, you figure this is something you have to rep a lot, right? Yeah. Like, this is new to everyone, but maybe they're hiding it. Maybe they're doing it behind the scenes. So we'll wait and see on kickoff. The only thing, there was some brief punt stuff. The only real special teams thing is they lost both their personal protectors. Yep. It was Adrian Phillips and Cody Davis, correct? Thanks. Special teams guy over here. He's learning. He's learning.
It's a process.
They were rotated in like Marte Mapu and Jalen Hawkins, so two guys who should make the team and should have a role, but some increased responsibility for those guys as well.
Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
Brian Hines, Patriots Beat Podcast. Him and Alex Barth will be live tonight on 7:30 on Patriots CLNS, so make sure you tune in for that. All right,
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was good. That's why, like I said, it's not, we don't have to keep every time we screw up our stand-ups, we got to restart, right?
Yeah.
This is live. We can't screw up right now.
Deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it. We just bring guys in, bring guys out, whatever works. You think we can get Phil Perry and Tom Curran up here? No, they're all the way down.
They're busy.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. What do we do? Offense. Let's go with the defense. Let's go cornerbacks. Christian Gonzalez, starting cornerback, obviously. Opposite him is Jonathan Jones, and then in the slot is Marcus Jones. That was the same thing from day 1 into day 2. So we kind of assumed that Jonathan Jones would be the one at corner, or would be the one cornerback who is going to start, but we don't know where he's going to be yet, whether it's inside, whether it's outside, and that's going to be kind of determined by if Marcus Jones can separate himself in the slot and if Alex Austin can do the same on the outside. But it's been Marcus Jones, in the slot, kind of separating himself and making himself that guy. So Alex Austin, Isaiah Bolden working at the boundary spot as well. A little bit for their second teams, though. Jonathan Jones then moves on the inside. So overall, overarching thoughts, what did you make of the cornerback room today? Because I know you think Marcus Jones had a big day.
Yeah, so I'll start with Marcus Jones. He remains, it looks like, the top slot option for New England. I mentioned it. He smothered Jalen Polk on a downfield route. It pretty much was broken up because Marcus Jones was so close. It just was in the area, and it hit him in the back. But that was a strong rep. We haven't really seen him struggle, and last summer that was not the case. He was very inconsistent. A lot of that had to do with him playing a ton on the outside. We did see some of that today, which we didn't see yesterday. But really, I think the versatility when it comes to the Joneses really was flexed today. Again, we saw Marcus inside and outside. Jonathan Jones, primarily an outside corner. He kind of mixed in with Alex Austin and Marco Wilson. But he also spent time in the slot with the backup unit. So we still know that is something they have in mind for Jonathan Jones. Gerard Mayo did mention back in the spring that Isaiah Bolden was in the slot because they didn't have their premier slot options, which kind of implied that the Joneses were going to be those guys. We even saw John Jones for a little bit on the back end at safety. Now, there are certain packages they have. Usually usually split field looks where one side will be in cover 2, and they'll just have the safety to that side in the corner switch responsibilities to get that physicality on the line while having a cornerback's range on the back end. So I didn't spot why exactly he was there, but again, the versatility obviously still shining. Christian Gonzalez, I mean, he gives up catches. Like, there's a few every day, but he doesn't let people get behind him. And that's one thing I feel like you may read, oh, Gonzalez gave up a catch. It's curls. It's out routes. He's basic. I mean,
he contains. It's fine.
Right. Like, he can do a better job maybe getting downhill and contesting those a la maybe like a Jack Jones. But he's not really that type of gambler yet in his career. So, you know, he gives up some receptions, but he's competitive, and no one is beating him in ways that are really bad. So, good day from Christian Gonzalez continued. You know, giving up catches, but nothing significant. And, yeah, just the versatility in the secondary really did stand out.
Are you worried at all about the lack of Alex Austin with the first-team offense?
Not really. A lot of that went to Jonathan Jones. I did see Alex Austin at times opposite Christian Gonzalez, but that's another situation where I really do think they want some competition. Maybe not Jonathan Jones. I think for him it's more of that situation where you know what you're getting out of the veterans. But with Alex Austin and Marco Wilson, you really don't know in your system who the better corner is long-term. Obviously, Alex Austin took advantage of his opportunities. Marco Wilson, though, also had a strong performance against the Jets in that blizzard last season. So neither guy has, I don't think, stood out. Like, Alex Austin in the spring was competitive, gave up some catches, but also broke some up. I think once the pads come on, this is obviously a man defense. They really like to get physical. That's when we'll start having people really assert themselves and separate themselves. But for now, you know, other than Marcus Jones and Jonathan Jones getting their hands on passes, not a lot stood out for me from the cornerback group.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because it feels like, and I'm going to kind of turn this into a column for CLNSmedia.com going tonight into tomorrow, where there seems like there's a lot more question marks, question marks is strong, but moving pieces on the defensive side of the ball. We talk about Judon potentially looking for a new contract and unhappy. Devon Gottschall unhappy. Yeah. Christian Barmore leaves with an illness today. The cornerback rotation, again, I don't consider it a question mark because I think they're still going to be good, but they don't exactly know where they're going to play these guys yet. There's going to be a rotation, Alex Austin in there, Jonathan Jones, and things like that. There's so many question marks and moving pieces, but they're still clearly the best unit on the field. Like, we talk about, you know, the quarterback's not having a great day, wide receivers playing okay, but not necessarily separating themselves. It's because this defense is just, you know, so smothering. Yeah. They're really is going to be what keeps them in games. I mean, even from the safeties, Kyle Duggar, you mentioned it before, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Jalen Hawkins having a good day as well. Like, they're just so good, and they're going to be a reason why the Patriots are going to win a lot more games than people might think this year.
And we talked about how there's probably going to be that rotation in the secondary, and we kind of saw that because there was one package where you had Gonzo, Alex Austin outside, and Jonathan Jones inside. That was when I figured, again, Jonathan Jones' versatility is kind of the key piece here. And then there were times where Jonathan Jones was outside while Marcus Jones was inside. So it's really cool that they can mix and match. We saw that against the Eagles last year. There was a ton of mixing and matching in the secondary, mostly I think because Jonathan Jones was hurt in that game. Yeah. But as an older guy who might get banged up from time to time, still tough as hell, he's going to play even if he is hurt most of the time. But having that flexibility and being able to move guys around is pretty huge. And it's been fun to watch out here.
Yeah, for sure. It's good stuff. We're through 2 days. We're going to head over and talk about the safety room. We're going to wrap up with our thoughts, and then we're going to give a preview for day 3. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Game Time. We'll be right back.
Days of summer here in Boston, which means it's time to get to some games over at Fenway Park. This baseball season, I'm using Game Time to land my Red Sox tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's super easy. You just open the app, click Sports, and the games will be right there for you. Right now, you can get tickets to the Rollin' Red Sox for as low as $11. You can even buy parking for the game and check out your seat view right in the app. With Game Time, you can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theaters, and more. Get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Thanks to Game Time. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. All right, quickly before we wrap this thing up, I want to touch on the safety room a little bit with you, Taylor, sticking to the defense. I just mentioned Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Jalen Hawkins, but someone we haven't talked about yet is Brendan Schooler, who is the de facto, he's the de facto Matthew Slater role now, right? You lose Slater. Schooler is sort of the undrafted guy, comes in, plays well, a lot of penalties last year, but he's now the leader really in the special teams room.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've expected him, when you do your roster breakdowns and everything like that, the Patriots have always had a ton of special teams guys. Your Chris Boards, your Cody Davises, even Jordan Healig was a guy who kind of made a run for it last year. Remember him?
That's sweet memory.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be the dude.
So did I. But Brendan Schooler has been that guy, right? And he's now the lone one here. And everyone kind of, at least I think of him as just a special teamer. But that wasn't the case today. He played a lot of safety, and not just safety, third team, fourth team, but getting reps with the first team in the second team. So what did you see from Schooler? Do you think it's something that's going to stick, or do you think it has to do with potentially an injury on the in the safety room?
Yeah, so Phil Perry did mention after practice that Marte Mapu was limited. We don't know the reason yet, but I think that was a big part of it because even, Brendan Schooler, obviously he has range. He's a great tackler. Like, he has what it takes to be a good safety if you just look at traits. I think he also played a little bit of safety when he was at Texas. But at the same time, I don't want to look too deeply into it. It definitely was significant that he was repping as much as he was and with the players that he was. Definitely stood out, especially considering Jalen Hawkins was still participating, but he seemed to be behind Schooler. Now, that could have been because of a personnel grouping. The way they use their safeties can change based on who specifically is out there. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get a full picture of what's going on snap to snap. I'm noting it. It's in the back of my head. I'm thinking about it to see if anything kind of builds. But yeah, I think at some point we've seen, Brendan Schooler get opportunities at safety. Usually it is with those like third or fourth stringers and not really up there on the depth chart. But yeah, just going to note it for now. Not going to look too much into it. He didn't make any plays or anything. There wasn't anything that stood out other than his presence. But hey, if he could add defense to his resume, that would be pretty awesome for a guy who, as you said, is really more of a core special teamer.
Yeah, for sure. It's something too. You look at it like that, right? And a lot of these guys, these special teamers, they have to be able to do something other than just play special teams, and that's why guys like a Jordan Healig don't end up making the roster because they're really an exclusive special teamer.
I will say there, one thing, I think that special teamers could be back because the kickoff is a play now, and there's not as many fair catches where truly it's a waste of a roster spot because we're 20-30% of kicks actually being returned. I do think there are room for exclusive special teamers, but we also, with this regime, maybe they don't value those guys who only do that quite as highly because there aren't a ton of them on the roster outside of Brendan Schooler, obviously Joe Cardona and the specialists, and then Christian Ellis is really the only other guy.
Yeah, basically every other team in the NFL has long snapper, kicker, punter, and then everybody else plays more than just special teams. It's exclusive to, again, your Matthew Slater, your Chris Board. Jordan Healig doesn't make the roster last year. I keep mentioning his name, but even Cody Davis.
We miss him.
My point is, I guess there's not a lot of other Cody Davises in the NFL who don't really play defense and just play special teams. So maybe they told Schooler, hey, you're going to have to also play some safety if you want to make the roster. But again, we don't know the thinking. We don't know how much they value those core special teams guys. So again, like you said, just noting the fact that Schooler was playing a lot of safety today outside of just special teams.
Should we talk about Chad Ryland as well?
We can talk about Chad Ryland. What do you want to talk about with Chad Ryland?
Yeah, so we didn't have field goals like we did in the spring.
Yeah.
But when I would turn my head and look at Chad Ryland kicking field goals, there were a couple rough misses. There was one that went wide. So they have different types of goalposts. They have the goalposts that are kind of narrow, that are higher difficulty, and then the traditional ones.
Yeah.
On the traditional one, there was a kick that Ryland shanked to the left. And again, it's just discouraging. I'm waiting for Chad Ryland to give me something that I can latch onto to be like, hey, there's some positive momentum. Maybe something's happening here. But some of the misses are just honestly mind-boggling, and it worries you. When we didn't see Joey Sly out there early on, we were like, maybe his roster spot is safe, and they were like, bubble wrap. You're not doing anything else. Obviously, that was a joke. That wasn't what ended up happening. But seeing Joey Sly out there was more reassuring because at least it's a veteran who's been in the league. He may not be great, but, there aren't that many good kickers, period. And Chad Ryland, man, I really hate to say this, but he just doesn't look like an NFL kicker. He didn't last season, and at least from my naive eye, I don't really see much improvement. I'm just seeing really worrisome attempts. Now, again, he was doing his own thing for a while the offense and defense were on the other field. He could have made 5 in a row that I missed, but the fact that I saw the shank that I did, there are kickers who won't have that for practices on end. So I'm not trying to dig the guy's grave, but it's discouraging again, just seeing these struggles.
Yeah, I'm with you. One thing I'll add to the special teams conversation. Yesterday I mentioned the Troy Brown skills development role and how they did the pool noodle stuff with the punt returners. Today I saw that another sort of niche, fine-tuning drill they did was that they had their punt returners lined up backwards. Then once the ball gets kicked off, they had to run, turn, and field it. Maybe they've done that before, but maybe I'm just paying attention to it now that, there's this new special teams coaching staff, Troy Brown being the punt return guy. But I thought that was an interesting little nugget that they're kind of trying to, refine those, I guess the smaller little skills that you need for punt returners. So,
and of course, that kind of drill would be if you were returning a punt and it went way over your head.
Right.
You're going to have to go back, and if it's deep enough, you'd want to ideally field it. And with your back turned, you want to try to get some yards after that, just for some little behind baseball. Inside baseball.
Of course. The one more thing I did call out Patriots fans yesterday to get down here. I thought there was a little bit more of a pop today.
Yeah.
The stands did fill out more, which I thought was encouraging. Make sure to get down here. Tomorrow's Friday, Saturday's off, and then you can come out here Sunday, get this thing rolling real good. So before we get out of here, Taylor, final thoughts on today, and what are you looking for the most as we head into tomorrow?
One final thought, Robert Kraft was on the field later in practice and was seen speaking to Matt Judon and Elliott Wolf.
Slid him a couple hundos, too. No, I'm just kidding.
So, don't know what that meant, but, definitely was at least interesting. Danny Amendola also was here. He was beside Troy Brown when they were going through that drill. Had a very deep neck shirt.
Deep cut.
Like, this is a dude who spent some time in Miami for sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, just notes for today. I like that the offense, as unspectacular as it's been for the most part, isn't making egregious mistakes.
Yeah.
That, for me, especially with a guy like Drake May, with Jacoby Brissett, who, if you look at his tape, most of it's, it's very good, and it's encouraging for a bridge quarterback. But he does sometimes have some wild moments where you're like, whoa, Jacoby. Kind of like Drake May, where he's getting hit and maybe tries to throw it away or throw it to someone and is getting hit and it ends up getting intercepted. But we saw one play like that from Jacoby Brissett to open yesterday. It might have just been the yips, but we didn't see that afterwards. So the defense is probably going to win the majority of these practices. I think that's how it should be for a unit that's been together for so long and has so much talent. But at the same time, at least the offense isn't doing things where you're really concerned that they can't even protect the ball. Because if this team's going to win, it's going to be by protecting the football, winning with defense, running the ball, and just as a passing game, taking advantage of whatever's there.
Yep, my final thought was going to be that Danny Amendola was the guy, the VIP guest here.
Sorry.
Yep, we're on the same wavelength there, but they are going to have a bunch of other VIP guests here throughout. So again, if you want to see guys, if you want to have autographs, get autographs going, come down here to Foxborough.
Our video producer Amit's actually signing autographs. If you want to come and get one from Amit, he's smiling behind the camera. He's very excited about it.
He's really happy. He's really glad we just said his name live to all the Patriots Press Pass viewers. So, I just had a good train of thought, and now I forgot.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just wanted to show Amit some
talking
love.
about tomorrow. We're talking about tomorrow. So Saturday's an off day. So tomorrow is the first day, or the last day before the off day. I'm curious to see if they work a little harder, they go a little longer. If they run the hill, if they don't, I know they can. Can they put shells on?
I think
they can
honestly.
put shells on. Brian Hines, can they put shells on tomorrow? Doesn't know. Come on, this is ridiculous. Amit, do you know? Amit says
where's
yes.
Mike Reese when you need him?
Patriots are in shells tomorrow, according to senior producer Amit. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow for Training Camp Live. Actually, it's going to be a Training Camp Live crossover edition with the Patriots beat guys Brian Hines and Alex Barth. So make sure you tune into that and follow along with all of our coverage on Patriots Press Pass. Read all our written work at clnsmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at Mike Kadlick, at tkyles39. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace, y'all.